Good evening, everyone. It's 7:15, and that means it's time for the Straight Paths Call with Valinda Fultz and Brian Shields. Today, we are going to welcome our very own District 30 Director, Patti Anderson, who will be presenting on the Innovative Planning Path, where she'll be sharing some of her experiences on the path and some of her favorite projects along the way. At the end of the presentation, we'll have time for any questions that anyone may have on the path. So let's give Patti Anderson a warm welcome for tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Brian. It's so exciting to be here. I love the opportunity to talk to our members. And, once you get that DTM thing, it's kind of hard to shut you up. So it's always nice to be able to have a platform to speak in. And I just want to tell Valinda, thank you, and you as well, Brian, for inviting me to do this. When you finish a path, there's a project that basically makes you reflect on the path. And when I started looking at this project, my first thought was, what did I learn? I just did the steps, I didn't think, I'm checking the boxes, right? And then this project made me look at what I had accomplished. And it's kind of ironic that, well, to me, it's ironic that the projects I did along the way weren't as important to me as the reviews and the evaluations I got out of them. Everyone will get out of their path something different. And I'm sure if your listeners have been paying attention to the other presenters on this call, they've realized that some of the electives, not evaluations, electives are the same in different paths. So the electives you pick have everything to do with what you want to do, what's important to you. And on innovative planning, I chose the ones that were more about how you present and how you come across. One of them was using descriptive language. And if you know me, I'm a storyteller. So that was really important to me and really helped me hone in on using those words and how to bring my audience to what I was talking about. The other elective I did was understanding vocal variety. And as a storyteller, that is such an important skill. So the electives in level 3 really helped me focus in on the presentation styles that I have been working on since I became a Toastmaster. The level 4 project was managing projects successfully. And in innovative planning, you would expect there to be projects, right? So this was like the first, yay, I get to do an event or I get to plan something, and I was all excited about it. And they elected me to be district director, and all of a sudden I got really busy and I was like, oh no, how am I gonna have the time to do these things? And there was this elective, manage online meetings. Well, I have an online meeting that everybody in the district is invited to once a month. So that was an example of how my life fit into my path. And I could use the meetings that we were having on the second Saturday of every month to fulfill that requirement of the path. It's always so cool when you can look at a project in your educational journey and apply it to life. And yes, the district meeting is part of my Toastmaster life, but it isn't part of my club life. And to me, that is a little bit different. The next level was the big one, the one where you're coming to the end and you can see the finish line and you get so excited. And it's innovative planning. So I got to do a high performance leadership project. Now, if any of you have done one of these before, it's a process. And once you've done a couple of them, you learn the process. And I always think, I wonder if this is what a project manager goes through in the real world, from the creating a vision to getting your team to planning it out to seeing it through. I always wonder if that's the same. But either way, every time I do a high performance leadership project, I learn something new about me. And this year I used the executive council meeting in September for my HPL. And I learned so many things about the legalities of what has to happen within the district at these meetings, but also what other people see. Because what was interesting to me was not the process of the HPL, but the feedback. There were 2 projects that required a 360 survey feedback response system. And when you're going through the motions of working a path and you're just doing it, it's the next thing and it's the next thing and you're just going through it. Yeah, you feel the confidence grow. Yes, you feel other people responding to you more. But there's always that little thing inside my head, I don't know if everybody feels this way, that am I really coming across the way I think I am? Am I as good a leader, as good an organizer, as good a presenter as I think I'm becoming? And when you get these 360 reviews, it is in your face. You cannot hide. The information is right there. And if you have that relationship with your team, you know they're going to be honest with you. The first 360 we did, I was actually really surprised by the feedback. I had no idea that my team saw me as such a great leader. And that really helped me harness my current role in the district. It was that final push that said, "You got this, girl." And I just started running with the district at that point. And I've actually gotten feedback since then that it kind of was a turning point. So that was awesome. The second 360 that I went through was about leading a volunteer organization. And I asked a wider group of people on this. And that feedback was a complete surprise, because we always think, you're your own worst critic, right? And I was expecting all of those critics to come back to me. And the critiques that I got were so surprising and so supportive. And all I could see was the value that Toastmasters has brought to all of those people that I worked with along the way. Each evaluation was given in a way that was both helpful, supportive, encouraging, but yet still growth opportunities. Because face it, if we don't have growth opportunities, or don't want growth opportunities, we're in the wrong place. You know, Toastmasters is about growing, and I know that I will always have more things to do to grow in this district and in Toastmasters. One of the things I noticed when I went through the review of the entire path was the timing. You know, the older we get, life just like rolls, right? It goes faster and faster. It took me 4.5 years to get my Distinguished Toastmaster award through the traditional program. It took me almost 2 years to get through this path. I've seen people do it a lot faster, and I've seen people working on it a lot longer. We all do things in our own time. But for me, all of a sudden I felt like, hey, I'm right on path. You know, I'm doing good. This is a good, you know, timeline for me. So it was very helpful to do this project and reflect on what innovative planning was to me, to kind of put in perspective the timeline and what it takes to get through a path. So thank you very much for, again, for giving me this opportunity. The thing I can say about innovative planning is if you want to think about where you want to grow as a leader, this is a good place to be. This is a good path to go on. I went through the path or into the path thinking this was going to be more about planning events. Don't know why, just where I was. And going through the path, it ended up for me to be more of a journey in leadership. And I think that any path that you choose, you're going to find the same thing. You may have an original idea, just like you did when you joined Toastmasters, an original idea of what you're going to get out of it. But as you go, you tune it into where you're growing. And with Toastmasters, you change your goals with how you grow. So I challenge everyone to find a path and just grow, 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 grow. Work 3 of them at one time. It'll be fun. Just go for it. And I bet you anything you'll find that doing them together, you'll be able to use the same projects. Humorously speaking, is going to apply to all of them, I guarantee it. There's one other thing that they ask you to look at when you review your journey through a path. And that is, what are your next steps? My next step is to actually mix them all up. I'm in the middle of the Pathways Mentor Program, but I already have 2 other paths waiting to dive into them. One is engaging humor, and one is team collaboration. And I know that I'll be able to reach out to Brian and Marty Jalove for a little insight into the engaging humor for sure. But team collaboration, watch out, trio. I think I see some projects coming up. And for those of you that do not know what trio is, that would be the district director, program quality director, and club growth director of the district. One of those individuals is, of course, our very own Belinda Foltz, the birthday girl. I knew I'd get it in there. So any questions for me regarding innovative planning?
What do you think the difference is between, or the benefit rather, what do you think the benefit is of completing that path, given that there's similar projects for all of the paths?
Each path gives you the opportunity to focus a little bit more on one thing or the other. And the electives that you get to choose do vary slightly from path to path. There are a couple of electives that are only available in a couple paths, and hopefully we'll be able to get that up on the website at some point, but what you're interested in and what you want to do is really where you go. I think the evaluation that TI puts out to pick your path is a really good one. I was thinking, why am I doing this the first time I did it? And then when I saw the paths that it recommended, I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I still had to choose between two of them. And ends up that now I'm doing both of those and another one because my interests are so varied. But your question is, why choose one path or the other? I always wanted to be able to speak in front of a group and be a professional trainer. And in my opinion, innovative planning gave me the opportunity to work more on how to be a better presenter within a program. And by that statement, what I mean is like an event or a bigger meeting with a purpose, or just a larger project outside of a speech at a time, if that makes sense. Did that help, Latanda?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Great. Oh, I really want to bust out in song, but I won't.
So I actually do have a question I want to ask here, and so as I'm sure you're aware, and anyone who's been to some of the other presentations in the past, when you get to the levels like 3, 4, and 5, there's various elective projects you can choose from. Is there any reason you chose the ones you did? And why did you pick the elective projects that you chose?
The electives I chose, as I mentioned, were descriptive language, vocal variety, and managing online meetings, and then the HPL project, leading in your volunteer organization. And the reason I did those was because I am a storyteller, and I think it's very important to be able to put those skills into delivering a message and not just a story. It's a lot different to run a meeting or facilitate a panel discussion than it is to get in front of a group and tell a story. And I wanted the practice of how to incorporate the two. And I think it worked. I think I'm doing pretty good. And the managing online meetings happens to be a big part of what I do right now. So getting a little extra practice, I thought would be the right way to start. And leading my volunteer organization, out of the other options that were available, to be honest, it was the easiest project to pick because I had a readily available group that I was already working with. But the most challenging part was getting myself prepared for those 360s. They may have given me the best feedback of the whole path, but they were probably the scariest part because you're always afraid somebody's going to slam you. But it was great. I learned a lot about myself and had a lot of growth in the process. It was really good. I am getting ready to sing happy birthday, Melinda. I wish I had a soundtrack. So for those of you that are listening to this after the day, February 18th is Belinda Folks' birthday. And that is the day we are recording. Look at that big smile. Isn't it great? It's awesome. Happy birthday, Melinda. Awesome. So, any other questions that I can field for you today?
I have a question. What was it like at the end of your path? Finally, you talked a little bit about it, but how did it feel when you finally finished all of that? And you were like, hey, I can move on to the next thing. What was all of the emotions that you felt at that moment?
Oh my gosh. Okay. There were so many. And a few of them were because I'm this really competitive person. And a member of my club does not know this, but I've been racing her to get through my path. And she doesn't know that. And I had to cancel giving my final speech because of some other stuff that was happening. And when I did that, and then I missed the next meeting, she ended up finishing her path first. So she was the very first person in our club to finish a path. And I was like, I missed going down in the history books. But I was so very happy for her. And then I finished it and I was like, yeah, all right, I finally did it. I've done a path. And then I looked in the base camp and found out that, oh, you think you're done because you finished level 5, but now you have to do a reflect on your path project. So I was led to believe that level 5 was it. But it's not. There's like a level 5.5. So again, it was that, oh. But now I'm just so excited that I get to start a new journey. And for the last couple of weeks, I keep thinking, all right, what story do I want to tell for my icebreaker? Because we are so full of stories, right? Well, I'm full of stories. And I'm like, I'm all excited about starting a new path. And because every path starts with an icebreaker, I'm like, I'm just going to collect all these stories. And maybe just start a bunch of paths and, pick things as I go. It's exciting. I'm excited to go forward and learn what's up. And I'm thinking of torturing my club by doing the humor one, engaging humor, because we have a club humorous individual and I'm not it. So I just might have to step up my game and see how that goes. One of the other things that I learned while I was on my path was not only am I a good listener, but there were multiple instances of opportunities to use that skill. And that was one of the things that kept coming back on the reviews, the 360 reviews, that really honed in for me the importance of that skill, especially as a leader, that just listening to people is so critical, especially if you're looking at motivation or recognition, anything to just keep the team together. So that was like a really great takeaway for me from those 360s is, hey, you're learning, you got it, it's good. And let's see. I'm not going to tell you what I suck at because that's for me to know and work on. But my next 360 will say, you rock at this. Because that's what it's about. And that's all I've got to say on that.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Patti. I think that you shared some great experiences that you had on your projects. and why you picked what you did and what you learned from it. I hope that everyone also learned something today and maybe might consider doing this path or any of the other paths out there based on the reasons Patty had for selecting hers. So I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, and I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you.